Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are going to explore the absolutely fascinating, behind-the-scenes reality of how monumental translation projects actually happen. Think about translating the Bible, for instance. It's this massive, complex collection of ancient texts. How does a project like that even get off the ground? And more importantly, how does it succeed without completely losing its soul in translation? Well, we're drawing on some incredible insights today from Dr. George Payton's lectures on Bible translation. And I promise you, what we're about to look at will completely change the way you read translated literature forever.
So let me ask you this. What makes a perfect translator? When I throw that question out there, what immediately pops into your head? You're probably picturing this lone, brilliant scholar sitting in an isolated, dusty room, just surrounded by piles of ancient lexicons and heavy dictionaries, right? Somebody who just intrinsically knows every single word in Greek, Hebrew, and English. Well, I'm here to tell you that this image is a total myth.
And that brings us to a massive paradigm shift. We have to move away from this idea of translator competence, which is all about an individual's skills, to translation competence, which focuses entirely on the team. In the real world, especially when you're working within non-Western cultures that are highly group-oriented, translation is just not a solo pursuit. It's a highly specialized group effort. Rarely, if ever, does one single person possess all the gifts necessary to produce a truly great translation all on their own.
Okay, let's dive into this playbook. We're going to walk through exactly how this works, covering the translation team playbook, mastering languages and texts, context, subject and culture, the MVP skill of transfer competence, and finally, what happens beyond basic translation skills.
Starting right off with Section 1, the translation team playbook.
To really get this, we need to completely rethink our approach and start looking at translation exactly like a team sport. Ask yourself, does every player on a soccer field need to be Lionel Messi? Obviously not. A team needs a goalkeeper, they need midfielders, and sure, they need a star striker like Messi. But does a striker need to be a great goalie? No way. Dr. Payton shares this brilliant anecdote about a translation project up in Alaska working on an Inuit language. Picture 4 people sitting around a table. 2 of them were fast, creative thinkers who could just spin up fresh paragraphs on the fly. One person was what they called a clarity checker. She just listened and pointed out what didn't make sense. And the 4th was a dictionary lookup specialist who meticulously tracked down the exact words. Not everyone had the same skills, but those complementary talents were exactly what the project needed to function.
Because ultimately, the objective is to win the game. Individual goals literally do not matter if the team loses. Think about it. It doesn't matter if one person on the team can perfectly translate a single super difficult verse if the entire book fails to communicate properly. The ultimate goal is whether the team collectively can produce a quality communicative translation that actually resonates with the target audience.
To win that game, the team as a whole must cover 5 very specific skills: language, textual, subject, cultural, and transfer competence. You don't need one person who's a master of all 5, but the team combined, they've got to have all of these bases covered. Let's break these down a bit. That brings us to Section 2, mastering languages and texts. This is really the foundation, the basic rules of the game.
Now, you might think that if someone speaks a language perfectly, they can naturally translate into it perfectly. But look at how language mastery actually builds. Writing is an incredibly unnatural, acquired skill that requires immense practice. Most native speakers don't automatically know how to write high-level literature in their own language without years of schooling. To bridge this gap, teams often rely on a language of wider communication, think Swahili in East Africa or Spanish in Latin America. Fluency in these broader trade languages allows the team to access a wealth of biblical and translation resources that just literally don't exist in their local dialect.
And this brilliantly illustrates why it goes beyond just raw language. Teams also absolutely need textual competence. The Bible isn't just one type of book, right? It's a massive library filled with very distinct genres. Narrative tells a story, hortatory texts exhort or command, and prophetic texts warn. Each of these requires a completely different structure and tone. Poetry, for instance, relies so heavily on imagery and is notoriously the hardest genre to translate. In fact, sometimes the best way a team can convey ancient Hebrew poetry into a target language is actually to translate it as prose, just so the core meaning survives.
Moving right along to Section 3, context, subject, and culture. This is where the nuance of translation really comes to life. It's all about the background. Take the English idiom, stepping up to the plate. If a translator suffers from cultural blindness and, say, doesn't know anything about baseball, they'll translate those words completely literally into another language. And the target audience?
they're going to be left wondering why someone is randomly walking toward a dinner plate. They completely miss the intended meaning, which is, of course, to take responsibility or be proactive.
Translating the Bible involves bridging ancient cultures with modern ones. And surprisingly, ancient biblical cultures share profound worldview similarities with a lot of modern, non-Western cultures, which makes translating some of these concepts a bit more intuitive. Dr. Payton highlights this wild story of the Apostle Paul surviving a snake bite after a shipwreck on the island of Malta. The locals immediately thought Paul was a cursed murderer being punished by the spirits of the sea. But when he didn't drop dead, they instantly flipped and decided he must be a god. Now, for a modern Westerner, this logic seems completely bizarre. But for a translation team working in a traditional, face-to-face society that believes deeply in an active, capricious spirit world, this passage makes perfect intuitive sense. They understand exactly how to convey that cultural mindset because they live it.
We have now arrived at Section 4, the MVP, Transfer Competence.
If a translation team is a soccer team, this skill is what ties every single play together. Transfer competence is basically the ability to do complex mental gymnastics. It's taking the meaning from the source language and efficiently moving it into the target language while somehow keeping all the nuances perfectly intact. It is highly specialized. In fact, studies have actually shown that trained translators routinely outperform standard foreign language teachers in translation tests. The teachers know the languages, for sure, but they just haven't trained their brains for the rapid-fire transfer of meaning.
To truly wrap our heads around this, we have to separate bilingualism from actual transfer competence. Being bilingual just means you can speak language 1 to one group and language 2 to another, sequentially. But transfer competence, that means actively passing meaning between them in a split second. Think of an American Sign Language interpreter at a live event. They're listening to spoken English and instantaneously signing it out, then watching signs and speaking English. It's simultaneous and it requires an incredible level of intuition. Now, to see how transfer competence actually changes the final product, let's translate the phrase, "I want you to come," into Swahili. A purely literal translation gives us what we see on side A, Ninataka Wewe Kuja. Technically, sure, it communicates the point, but it sounds terribly unnatural. It sounds like a small child or a foreigner stumbling through the language, and you definitely don't want a Bible that sounds like a toddler wrote it. On side B, a person with transfer competence intuitively skips those literal words and automatically produces Ninataka Uje, the natural, polite, and completely accurate form. That intuition right there, that is the magic of transfer competence. Finally, let's step into Section 5, Beyond Basic Translation Skills. So, the crucial point we need to take away here is that translation is a rigorous academic exercise that goes way beyond just knowing languages. Getting the words down is literally just the beginning. Once a draft is on paper, the entire team has to apply intense critical thinking. They need to figure out how to use highly specialized translation software. They have to rigorously edit their own work, give honest peer feedback to others, and meticulously check for accuracy. It takes an absolute mountain of collaborative grit to drag the final product across the finish line. Which leaves us with this final thought. The next time you open a translated text, whether it's an ancient biblical narrative, a novel, or hey, even just an instruction manual, will you just see the words printed on the page? Or will you see the incredible collaborative team of fast writers, careful editors, cultural bridge builders, and linguistic gymnasts who worked tirelessly to put them there? Because translation isn't just about changing words, it is a team miracle that connects humanity. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep staying curious.